chains around key targets named by Trump, leaving US forces completely helpless to respond? Would Trump actually risk committing a war crime by killing civilians just to stop Mujtaba's defiant strategy? Iran's IRGC completely refuses to bow down before Trump's rigid April 7th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time deadline as tension skyrockets.
The entire country can be taken out in one night, and that night might be tomorrow night.
The reckless threats and baseless rhetoric of the US president, resulting from repeated military failures, will not affect the continued offensive operations of Islamic fighters against American and Israeli targets, nor erase the humiliation of the US in West Asia. As President Trump threatened to bomb Iran's power plants, Tehran responded by calling for a nationwide human chain to shield key infrastructure. The US has warned it could take out Iran in one night if Tehran does not fully reopen the Strait of Hormuz to allow the free passage of oil shipments. In one of his most explicit remarks yet, Trump threatened to decimate Iran's power plants, bridges, and other critical infrastructure if the blockade continues. In response, Tehran has taken an unusual step by mobilizing public sentiment domestically, appealing to citizens to take part in a symbolic defensive campaign. Iran's Ministry of Sports and Youth has called on Iranian youth to form human chains around key power plants and other vital facilities. The initiative has been framed as the human chain of Iran's youth for a bright future, aiming to present a civilian-led deterrent message. Alireza Rahimi said, and I quote, "I invite all youth, cultural and artistic figures, athletes, and champions to the national campaign, Iranian Youth's Human Chain for a Bright Tomorrow. Tomorrow, Tuesday at 2 p.m., beside power plants across the country, with every belief and taste. We will stand hand in hand to say, attacking public infrastructure is a war crime." Iran's Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports, Alireza Rahimi, stated that the idea originally came from young people themselves, not from the top of the political hierarchy. The movement is meant to signal public commitment to the country's sovereignty and to rally volunteers to protect national infrastructure in a non-military way. The human chains are scheduled to form just hours before the US deadline of the 7th of April at 8 p.m. Eastern Time is set to expire. In his warning, Trump also brushed aside concerns over possible war crime implications if civilian-linked sites like power plants are attacked. Instead, Trump suggested that ordinary Iranians might support US actions against the regime, even as Iranian youth mobilize in visible opposition to the American threat.
You got hit, even if you...
Them have them run. Why shouldn't we? We're the winner.
Not from the top of the political hierarchy.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Appreciate it. I'm going to rewind it and finish playing the content. Thank you very much for that.
The movement is meant to signal public commitment to the country's sovereignty and to rally volunteers to protect national infrastructure in a non-military way. The human chains are scheduled to form just hours before the US deadline of the 7th of April at 8 p.m. Eastern Time is set to expire. In his warning, Trump also brushed aside concerns over possible war crime implications if civilian-linked sites like power plants are attacked. Instead, Trump suggested that ordinary Iranians might support US actions against the regime, even as Iranian youth mobilize in visible opposition to the American threat. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts to de-escalate the conflict continue, even as Iran stands defiant over the Strait of Hormuz and its core security demands. Iran is reported to have rejected a proposed 45-day truce, insisting instead on a permanent end to hostilities from Washington and its allies. Through regional mediators, Tehran has also conveyed a separate 10-point plan aimed at bringing the war to a structured and lasting end. At the same time, Washington has maintained that diplomatic channels remain open, indicating that formal talks have not yet collapsed. Reports from Axios suggest that Trump might be willing to delay his 7th of April deadline if negotiators can put together a deal that meets key US conditions.
They have till tomorrow. Now we'll see what happens. I can tell you they're negotiating, we think, in good faith. We're going to find out. We're getting the help of some incredible countries that want this to be ended because it affects them also. A lot of people are affected by this, but we're giving them till tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, and after that, they're going to have no bridges, they're going to have no power plants, very little is off limits.
Are there certain kinds of civilian targets, though? I'm thinking
I don't want to tell you that.
hospitals that you...
I don't want to tell you that. We have a plan, because of the power of our military, where every bridge in Iran will be decimated by 12 o'clock tomorrow night, where every power plant in Iran will be out of business, burning, exploding, and never to be used again. I mean, complete demolition by 12 o'clock. And it'll happen over a period of 4 hours if we wanted to. We don't want that to happen. We may even get involved with helping them rebuild their nation. And you know what? If that's the case, the last thing we want to do is start with power plants, which are among the most expensive thing, and bridges. You saw the bridge went. We were very close to a deal. And then I got a call from Mr. Witkoff, Mr. Kushner, and JD saying, I think they're breaking the deal. I said, tell them that's okay, don't worry about it. But tell them to look out their window and watch. And within 45 minutes, I gave the order to knock out the biggest bridge. I gave the order, knock out the biggest bridge in, I believe, the Middle East, but the biggest bridge in Iran. And within 10 minutes after I gave that order, that bridge was over. Us charging tolls?
Iran.
What about us charging tolls?
Is that something you're considering?
I'd rather do that than let them have them run. Why shouldn't we? We're the winner. We won, okay? They are militarily defeated. The only thing they have is the psychology of, oh, we're going to drop a couple of mines in the water, all right? No, we have a concept where we'll charge tolls, okay? I thought you meant us. Your question was...
What tolls is he going to charge Iran? What tolls is he going to impose on Iran that's going to be effective? Like somebody says in the comments, here comes the propaganda.
Your question would have been more accurate if you said it. Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
We have to have a deal that's acceptable to me. And part of that deal is going to be, we want free traffic of oil and everything else.
You said glory be to God in this conflict. Do you believe that God supports the United States' actions in this
I do,
war?
because
And have you
God
sought
is
his
good,
direction?
because God is good, and God wants to see people taken care of. God doesn't like what's happening. I don't like what's happening. Everyone says, I don't enjoy this. I don't enjoy NATO's a paper tiger. NATO is us. And when we needed them, we didn't need them, by the way. We didn't need them. obviously, because they haven't helped at all. Just the opposite. They've actually gone out of their way not to help. They didn't even want to give us landing strips. Think of it. And it's not just NATO. You know who else didn't help us? South Korea didn't help us. You know who else didn't help us? Australia didn't help us. You know who else didn't help us? Japan. Germany telling us that, well, it's not their war. We had nothing to do with it. They wanted me to go and tell them everything I was doing. We didn't know anything about it. Well, if I would have told them, they would have leaked it, and we wouldn't have been nearly as successful, possibly, right? But to the victor belong the spoils. So we haven't heard that in, I think, maybe hundreds of years.
Do you still want them to stay away, or what role do you expect them to play now?
I'd rather have them stay away. I'd rather have them stay away because I think they bring with them some problems and some difficulties. And I don't think they bring death, I mean, you know, to themselves. But I'd rather have them stay away.
IRGC Navy forces struck the Israeli container ship SDN-7 with a cruise missile, causing a large fire after its destruction. The U.S. amphibious assault ship LHA-7 came under heavy fire and was forced to retreat deep into the Indian Ocean. Key sites in northern and southern Tel Aviv, strategic centers in Haifa, chemical plants in Beer-Sabbai, and Israeli troop concentrations in prt24 were hit with precision ballistic missiles by the IRGC Aerospace Force. A joint Israeli drone production center in the UAE and several aircraft at Ali Al Salem Air Base were hit with precise missile and drone strikes. In the second phase of the 98th wave of Operation True Promise 4, the US Al Adari base in Kuwait was attacked with missiles and drones, destroying helicopter storage and US troop accommodations. US Victoria Base Command and Control Centers in Baghdad were effectively targeted by the Iraqi Islamic resistance. 5 hideouts and organizational sites of terrorist groups in northern Iraq were destroyed following intelligence identification and drone strikes. Using Arosh-2 kamikaze drones, Iranian forces carried out precise attacks on Al-Kaj base and the Al Adari camp. The presence of E-3 AWACS planes and MQ-9 drones at Al-Kaj makes it a key hub for US operations in the region, while ground forces, special units, and the Night Stalkers helicopter unit stationed at Al Adari played a role in the previously failed enemy operation in southern Isfahan, now under precise Iranian attacks. Iran's air defenses, under the Integrated National Air Defense Network, recently shot down 1 Orbiter UAV in Kermanshah, 1 Hermes 900 UAV in Andameshk, 2 MQ-9 drones in Isfahan and Keshem, 1 JASSM cruise missile by IRGC forces, 2 cruise missiles, Tomahawk and JASSM, in Tehran and Hamdan by the Iranian army. The reckless threats and baseless rhetoric of the US president, resulting from repeated military failures, will not affect the continued offensive operations of Islamic fighters against American and Israeli targets, nor erase the humiliation of the US in West Asia.
Neighboring countries of Iran that could have found themselves being the target of even more retaliation. So we've heard a couple of different
Israeli military operation.
Iran, but we don't know what this looks like down the road.
Yeah, and our Jeremy Diamond is reporting on concerns already from Israel about this plan. Joining us now is CNN's Zach Cohen. So what are you hearing from Pentagon officials tonight?
Yeah, Anderson, a U.S. official telling me that at least for now, the U.S. military has paused strikes inside Iran. So we're seeing a tangible impact of this supposed ceasefire deal that has been agreed upon, it sounds like, by both the Trump administration and the Iranian government. But digging a little deeper into this 10-point plan that the Iranians say that, at least in practice, that the Trump administration has agreed to, one of the conditions is really striking, and it is a demand that the United States withdraw all combat forces from all bases and points of deployment within the region. So not just in the general proximity of Iran, but in the region itself, all of the bases, including the bases that we've seen be hit by Iranian missile strikes and drone attacks over the last several weeks in retaliation to these U.S.-Israeli strikes. So, and that comes in addition to this other demand about the Strait of Hormuz, which effectively amounts to Iran demanding that the United States formally legitimize Iran's control of the strait going forward. And that's something that we have to remember was not the case before these joint U.S.-Israeli strikes first began. Iran did not formally control the Strait of Hormuz. That was something that they did in response to the U.S.-Israeli military operations, and it's something that has ultimately led us to this point, and was the key motivator, it seems, for President Trump to agree to this ceasefire. He was realizing, it seems, that there was a shot clock here, and an urgent need to reopen the strait, but at what price remains to be seen. It sounds like there will be talks in the near future between Iran and the U.S. and Pakistan, but according to these 10 demands that the Iranians are putting forward, including the withdrawal of U.S. forces from all bases in the region, it'll be shocking to see if the Trump administration.
Zach Cohen, appreciate it. Joining me now is former Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman, who led the team and negotiated the 2015 nuclear deal with Iran. CNN's global affairs analyst Brett McGurk, who served in senior national security posts under the last 4 presidents, including President Trump's first term, and CNN global affairs analyst and Iran expert Karim Sajapur. Karim is currently a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Brett, first of all, what's your reaction to the president's announcement of this and the Iranians' response?
I think, Anderson, there's a lot we don't know. Obviously here, the guns are going silent for a time, but not surprising if you do this all in public like what's happening. You have the Iranians always demand, as Wendy knows, the last, whatever it is, in a military exchange, the last shot, in a negotiation, the last, edit to the text. And they're coming in and basically saying, you just had it on screen, the Strait of Hormuz is open in coordination with their armed forces. If that is true, Anderson, that is not a return to status quo antebellum, how it should be, with free passage of the strait, and that's a hugely problematic outcome if that's what we just agreed to.
That's a huge victory for Iran, because Iran was not in control officially of the strait before this.
Right, so I think the test here over the next 48, 72 hours, are ships passing freely through the strait, clearing that backlog, or are they stopping and paying a toll to Iran? Is this system that they've set up? So we'll see. I mean, I'm talking to a lot of people who, honestly, Anderson, don't know. People who are very close to this in terms of how it's going to go. I don't know. The President Trump's statement suggested it'll be free passage, free complete passage, and the Iranians put out a statement saying that you have to coordinate with their armed forces. So that's a problem.
Karim, the statement is safe passage to the Strait of Hormuz will be, quote, be possible via coordination with Iran's armed forces and with due consideration of technical limitations. It also talks about coordinating with the armed forces and this confirming a unique economic and geopolitical position for Iran.
Anderson, Iran wants to essentially normalize its control over the Strait of Hormuz as its Panama Canal, and they want
which it wasn't previously.
No, Strait of Hormuz is an international waterway, and they want to make it an Iranian waterway to take tolls from each ship that passes through, which is making them the most important export of oil at the moment, because 20% of oil, LNG, fertilizer passes through the strait, and they want to do that for a couple of reasons. Number one, they say that they want reassurances that they're not going to be attacked again in the future by the United States and Israel. And number two, they believe they deserve compensation for the billions of dollars in damages they've endured. I'm very skeptical that they're going to be able to get those assurances. So long as their official slogan is death to America and death to Israel, and they're committed to their nuclear program, their missiles and drones and proxies, they're not going to be able to get those reassurances. So in my view, that we can breathe a temporary sigh of relief, but I don't think we're anywhere near a permanent resolution to this conflict.
And Wendy, this has nothing to do with, there's nothing in this about the long-term nuclear program that Iran has, which is probably number one. Right now, the Strait of Hormuz is the biggest issue for the United States, but the nuclear future of Iran is probably a bigger issue for the planet. Do you believe the Iranians are negotiating in good faith here? Have they won this round?
Well, I think what you've heard from both Brett and Karim is absolutely right. Iran is in control of the Strait of Hormuz. They're also in control of their enrichment stockpile. That really hasn't been discussed at all in this 2-week break. We see that we're in much worse shape. It's a much more hardline regime now than it even was before. I'm sure Karim would agree with that. And as a result, it concerns me that now they will believe they need a nuclear weapon to act as a deterrent from future attacks by the United States, Israel, or anyone else for that matter. And if that is in fact where this goes, then indeed there will be many other people in the world who will want nuclear weapons as well. I think the really tough part here, as Brett pointed out, is we don't know how much this will hold for 2 weeks, and there is a wide gulf, as Kareem said, between where the president has said he wants to be and where this 10-point plan is. They're not even in the same universe, and these negotiations are very tough. They take more than 2 weeks. I'm not even sure you could get a framework. And the fact that the president has said he's going to base this on the 10 points that have been laid out by Iran, most of those points are in Iran's favor.
Right. When you were negotiating, how long did the negotiations for the deal you got in 2015, how long did that take? It was like a year, wasn't it?
Oh, it took 18 months to get there.
18 months, yeah.
It
So
was
the
a
idea that
long
this is
slog.
going to happen in 2 weeks, I mean, that's just not the Iranian clock.
That is not the Iranian clock, and this is a very technical negotiation. Everything from how you ensure safe passage in the Strait of Hormuz to what you're going to do about sanctions relief and what that looks like, to what happens to that stockpile, what Iran can continue to do. Iran has said, and the Supreme National Council said again tonight, they have to hold on to their right to enrichment. They believe that is a right they have in the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. The United States has never believed it is a right. We only acceded to the possibility under strict monitoring and verification. There's a lot that has to be worked out here. And I think the really horrible thing about what's happened over the last few weeks is that the United States has lost its moral authority in the world. We have pushed back our alliances. This really has not only created some positives for Iran, and to be sure, we have hurt their missile program, we have hurt their facilities, we have hurt their Navy, no question about all of that. But we've also made heroes in some ways out of Russia and China who have helped Iran and now think they can do whatever they want because the United States did.
Brett, do you agree with that? Because that's a really bleak look at, I mean, if that's what came out of all of this, that's bleak.
Yeah, Anderson, I tend to withhold judgment until we know a little more and see. We don't really know what's happening in Iran. We don't know the strength of the system. I do think we've lost the plot, though, Anderson. I mean, you and I were talking back in January about the protests by the Iranian people, and I feel like we've lost that critical...
You think destroying their civilization is a...
I know exactly. I mean, what we saw play out in the last 24 hours was so counterproductive to everything, and particularly the Iranian people are protesting for their civilization, for Iranian nationalism against the Islamic Republic, the Islamic State of the Islamic Republic of Iran, and we've lost that. So, look, we have to see as the dust settles here what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz. How intact is this regime? Is the supreme leader even in control? Is he alive? We actually don't know these answers, so we'll have to see. But obviously, there are a lot of problematic elements here right now, and I think it's going to require some good diplomacy to try to pull them together.
Kareem, I mean, yes, huge devastation of facilities, capabilities in Iran, but is in some way the regime, are they a worse regime than the one that was in place before, which was, a suicidal, fanatical regime? Is Iran stronger in some weird way than they were before?
I think their ability to project power is weaker, but their hold over society right now is stronger.
Over Iranian society.
Over Iranian society. It's a military government, Revolutionary Guard government, with all of their fingers on the trigger. And, our greatest ally against the Iranian regime are the people of Iran, who for 47 years have been, fighting for freedom. And, they believe that Iranian civilization is being suffocated by this regime. So President Trump's threats to destroy Iranian civilization is strategic malpractice. You want to be on the side of Iranian people and Iranian civilization, because this Cold War we've had with Iran is never going to end until we have new leaders in power in Iran whose organizing principle is the national interests of Iran rather than the revolutionary ideology of 1979.
Brett, if you are a regime which has long believed the U.S. wants to destroy you, and the U.S. president has said that he's willing to wipe out your civilization and bring you back to the Stone Ages, is giving up your nuclear weapon just from a purely strategic standpoint or your nuclear program? Is that a wise move?
No, I think, as Wendy said, they will now have a strategic calculation to try to retain what they have and build it back. It'll be hard to build it back. They have to rebuild the centrifuging capacity and everything else to actually do anything with that enriched uranium. But no, they're sitting on 1,000 pounds of highly enriched uranium, Anderson, without any inspectors, without anything. And that's a big problem. And that is, again, we can't lose the plot here. It's the Iranian people, as Kareem just said, it's the missiles and drones, it's the nuclear, and it's obviously support for terrorism. And we haven't necessarily here made any of that better. But I just want to withhold judgment as we go forward and see, even what just happened tonight, we still have some open questions, a lot of open questions.
I should point out that nuclear agreement that was made in 2015 through Wendy Sherman and many others, that was ripped up by the first Trump administration, which is what has ultimately led us to the position that we're in now. Wendy Sherman, Brett McGurk, Kareem Shahjapour, thank you. Coming up next, we'll go to Israel, which was coming under new attack just as we went to air. Those were air raid sirens a short time ago in Tel Aviv after Iran launched more missiles at Israel tonight. The latest just a few moments ago. People there are being urged to take shelter. Among them, CNN's Jeremy Diamond, who joins us now. So what are you hearing from Israeli authorities about their opinion on this deal? And is it clear how the Prime Minister, and again, I'm hearing more air raid sirens, so if you got to go, you got to go. But what are you hearing from Israeli officials?
Yeah, that's right, Anderson. You can see actually behind me one of those cluster munitions coming in as the air raid sirens are now sounding here in Tel Aviv. We're going to go to shelter, and you can stick with us as we move. But this is the fourth time now that we have had air raid in Israel since President Trump released that tweet announcing this ceasefire agreement between Iran and the United States. And in fact, this siren is the second one we've seen since the Pakistani Prime Minister said that the ceasefire had gone into immediate effect. So presumably, if the Pakistani Prime Minister is to be believed, then the ceasefire is already in effect, and what we are witnessing right now are violations of that ceasefire agreement by Iran, which is continuing to rain down ballistic missile fire over Israel, some of those including cluster munitions. And as I can tell you, the reaction from Israeli officials tonight to this ceasefire agreement is that they will abide by this agreement. They will also cease fire for the next 2 weeks alongside the United States, as long as Iran keeps up its end of the bargain here. But Israeli officials are not pleased. I spoke with an Israeli source tonight who said that Israel is reluctantly agreeing to this ceasefire agreement. And they are doing so because, as Prime Minister Netanyahu told me several weeks ago, President Trump is the leader, Israel is the ally in this military campaign in Iran. But ultimately, Israeli officials felt like they still had more to achieve in Iran, more goals to achieve militarily through strikes, and also more targets that they could strike inside of Iran as well. But for the time being, we understand that Israel will abide by this ceasefire. Again, it is contingent on Iran doing so as well. And as we are witnessing right now, and as you're witnessing by my presence in this bomb shelter, in fact, we just heard a boom going off overhead, Iran is not yet abiding by the terms of this ceasefire. Interestingly, the Pakistani Prime Minister also said that this ceasefire agreement would include Lebanon, which presumably would halt Israeli military operations in southern Lebanon, Israeli airstrikes in the Lebanese capital of Beirut that we've been seeing over the course of the and Hezbollah attacks on northern and central Israel. That is also a big question mark, because Israeli officials, their understanding was that if a ceasefire was reached with Iran, they would likely intensify their operations against Hezbollah in Lebanon. This would very much change that equation. But again, we haven't yet officially heard from the Israeli government about the ceasefire agreement, about this inclusion of Lebanon, other than, again, what I'm hearing right now from an Israeli source.
All right, Jeremy Diamond, appreciate it. Thank you very much. I'm joined now by CNN national security analyst Alex Politzis and retired U.S. Army Colonel Peter Mansour. Alex, I mean, you and I have been talking since before this began. Is this the outcome you expected?
Leading up to this point, the comments coming back about the Pakistan-led process were not great, that it was not really going anywhere, and then all of a sudden it started to gain traction over the last day or so, where there was a real push by Prime Minister to get this 2-week ceasefire into effect if the Straits would open up. There was, I think, some warm sentiments earlier today, as I would describe it. I heard from some Allied intelligence officials, also heard from some White House officials. It was trending the right direction, and then it finally landed, about an hour before the deadline had hit. So, now in hearing Jeremy as well, I think he's 100% correct. But if we remember the last time as well, we've also completely decimated the Iranian command and control structure. So I imagine there's a chance that there could still be some sporadic missile fire coming in for a bit until all of the Iranian units are reached and told that the ceasefire is in fact in effect.
Their capabilities remain, they're able to shoot down U.S. planes, they're able to fire missiles into Israel.
Yeah, so what we're hearing is that the jet that was shot down the other day was brought down by a shoulder-fired missile. So the administration's been talking about air superiority and air dominance, which is taking out the fighter jets and then the surface-to-air missiles that are fired with the radar dishes that people are used to seeing in the movies. But there's also shoulder-fired ones, and the lower you fly to the ground, the greater the chance of that happening are. It's hard to get all of those.
Colonel Mansour, what are the odds this ceasefire holds for the full 2 weeks? And I guess more importantly, let's talk big picture. If Iran has control through its armed forces over the next 2 weeks of the Strait of Hormuz, does that then, whatever happens to the negotiating table, essentially give Iran de facto control moving forward? Because they didn't have that before.
Well, absolutely. That's the big takeaway from this ceasefire, is that for at least 2 weeks, and presumably going into the negotiations, Iran is in control of 20% of the world's oil supply and can exact tolls on shipping. It is an own goal of enormous proportions. My PhD advisors, Al Millett and Williamson Murray, once wrote that mistakes in tactics and operations can be corrected, but miscalculations in policy and strategy live on forever. And I'm afraid that's the case here with the Trump administration and its war on Iran.
So is this what you get when you go into a war without really having a plan other than Jesus is going to protect us and protect our bullets, and they're going to shoot straight and we're going to kill a lot of them?
It's what you get when you expect tactical and operational excellence to achieve strategic outcomes. And you don't think through the second, third order effects and the branches and sequels and what can happen if things go wrong. The administration had 3 major goals: regime change, stop Iran from supporting its proxies around the Middle East, and destroy its nuclear program. None of them have been achieved. It's damaged and degraded their missile and drone capacity and destroyed their navy, but yet Iran still controls the Strait of Hormuz. So none of the strategic goals have been met, and they're unlikely to be met.
Alex, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think, when all of the exercises have been done over the years for the Straits to prep the United States, it all was predicated upon taking out the missiles, the nuclear program, and it didn't begin with an existential threat to the regime in terms of taking out all that the major leaders in the decapitation strike in the beginning. So Iran immediately went into a position of an existential threat response, and through that, they were able to hold the Straits at risk. And for years, we've always talked about them mining the Straits or the naval, but now with the evolution of drone warfare over the last few years, particularly because of the war in Ukraine, they were able to do so without actually physically closing the Straits. They're open.
Essentially, this has moved from a fight over Iran's nuclear program and the regime to concern over the Strait of Hormuz and getting oil through. That's where the administration's interest has shifted. We're not hearing them talk about concern over the nuclear capabilities of Iran anymore. It's all about opening up the Strait.
Yeah, we began with a statement that they were 2 weeks away from getting a weapon. In reality, it was about 2 weeks away if they had the enrichment technology from getting that 440 kilograms of highly enriched uranium from 60 to 90%, just enough fuel for about 11 weapons. But then you still have to build a bomb, and that takes, a good bit of time afterwards. So if you pivot away from that to the other strategic threats, there was a clear plan, years of intelligence, about 16,000 targets for the missiles, the drones, the industrial base, the Navy, etc., which Central Command has been working through off of an air tasking order, and, there's about 3,000 or so targets left. They're not completely done. They wanted to be done with it so they don't have to go back. But then there was mission creep. The Straits was not an original military objective, and then a transition to protesters isn't a military objective, it's a political one. The military can set the conditions for it, but with 1 million men at arms, you can bomb every headquarters in the entire country, and unless you get every AK-47, you have an unarmed population and unless the security forces fall, it's difficult for them to take over.
And Colonel, it does seem now that the U.S. is dealing with an Iranian regime, which the president says is there has been regime change because there's a lot of dead leaders and who have been replaced by new ones. There's a lot of reporting that the new ones may be more hardline, more extreme, have less reason to feel like they need to be moderate in any capacity. Do you think Iran now is a greater threat to the U.S.? Obviously, they've been severely, their capabilities have been degraded. For how long, we don't know. But in terms of the actual regime, the threat, does it remain to you?
In the near term, the regime has been severely degraded. There's no doubt about that. But in the long term now, if this ceasefire holds and ends up in some sort of negotiated settlement, that regime is going to be more hardline than what they replaced. And if they weren't working towards achieving a nuclear weapon before this, they certainly are now. They understand that their only way to survive will be to go the way of North Korea. And even if they become an international pariah, if they have nuclear weapons, they'll be left alone. And that's where we're headed.
A little past 9 p.m. here in New York. It has been just about 2.5 hours since the president announced a ceasefire with Iran. He did it on social media, quoting from the president, "Subject to the Islamic Republic of Iran agreeing to the complete, immediate, and safe opening of the Strait of Hormuz, I agreed to suspend the bombing and attack of Iran for a period of 2 weeks. This will be a double-sided ceasefire." He added, quote, "The reason for doing so is that we have already met and exceeded all military objectives and are very far along with a definitive agreement concerning long-term peace with Iran and peace in the Middle East. We received a 10-point proposal from Iran and believe it is a workable basis on which to negotiate." For its part, Iran's foreign minister said in a statement, quote, "I hereby declare on behalf of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, if attacks against Iran are halted, our powerful armed forces will cease their defensive operations." He continued, "For a period of 2 weeks, safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz will be possible via coordination with Iran's armed forces and with due consideration of technical limitations." Now, that said, Israel has been dealing with several new waves of missile fire from Iran. According to our Jeremy Diamond, who's in Tel Aviv and had to take shelter during our last hour, the Netanyahu government has reluctantly agreed to the truce. In the last few minutes, Kuwait and the United Arab Emirates also reporting incoming fire. Bahrain's interior ministry is sounding air raid sirens and telling people to take shelter. I want to start this hour with CNN's chief national security analyst Jim Sciutto in Tel Aviv. What are you hearing from Israeli officials on the status of this proposed 2-week ceasefire?
Well, Anderson, we have a ceasefire announcement. We don't yet have a ceasefire because since the announcement, we've seen, as you said, 3 waves of Iranian missile attacks here. Just a few minutes ago, looking up at the skies over Tel Aviv, I saw one of the interceptions here in the central part of the city. So Iran is still firing missiles at Israel, and as you note, at its Gulf neighbors as well. Whether those are the last salvos before the guns fall silent or a sign that there are still details to be worked out, we don't know. But we do know that when we look at the initial demands and goals of this war, that there's a great deal of distance between that 10-point proposal that the president says will be the basis of negotiations and what America's goals were going in here, because the 10 points includes things like complete sanctions relief for Iran, but also Iran continuing to exercise ultimate control over the Strait of Hormuz, which is something that would be an enormous concession for the president to make. Israeli officials have been telling us consistently since the start of this war that they would not consider it a victory without 2 things. One, regime change, and no one in this country believes, despite the president's claims, that there is regime change. They see quite the same leadership in place in Iran. But also, Israel has long demanded and still wants effective restrictions, really an ending of Iran's nuclear program, including those hundreds of kilograms of highly enriched uranium. That hasn't happened either. And while the president will say that he has met all of America's goals, frankly, the president's list of goals has changed throughout as well. At one point included regime change. That hasn't happened, as well as control of the nuclear program. So you have big gaps between the U.S. and its main ally, Israel, but also gaps between what the president said he wanted to achieve and what's been achieved to date.
Jim Sciutto, thanks from Joining me now, CNN senior White House correspondent Kristen Holmes. So is the White House offering many specifics at this hour, either about the ceasefire or the upcoming negotiations?
They're not giving that many specifics, but here's what we do know from a White House official, that there are preparations being made for potential in-person meetings between Iranian and U.S. officials. Now, we have been told that this is likely to happen in Islamabad with those Pakistani negotiators present. It would include Secretary of State Marco Rubio, as well as Vice President J.D. Vance, and then, of course, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, who have been doing a bulk of the negotiating. Of course, the question now is, how does this work with J.D. Vance's travel? He's currently in Hungary. Will he take a stop in Pakistan? There's obviously always security concerns as well, but preparations are being made for potential talks. Nothing right now is solid, and we got a statement from the press secretary reiterating that nothing is final until President Trump says that it's final, but that is something that is currently in the works. Now, in terms of the deal and what's going to be negotiated, we have asked repeatedly for that 10-point plan, for any kind of details on what it includes. We have not gotten that from the White House, only them doubling down on what President Trump said, that this was going to serve as the basis of negotiation. They also said that it was President Trump and the military that got Iran to bend. We, of course, have been hearing from Iranian officials saying that the U.S. has bent in this case. But what we do know, of course, is that President Trump did not bomb civilian infrastructure today, barely, meeting that deadline or signing off on the ceasefire roughly 2 hours before that deadline that he had set.
Yeah, Kristen Holmes, thanks very much. Joining me now for more on President Trump's ceasefire announcement is Democratic House Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Leader Jeffries, your reaction to what we know about this ceasefire tonight?
Well, a 2-week ceasefire is insufficient. We need a permanent end to Donald Trump's reckless war of choice, which is why House Democrats have demanded that Speaker Mike Johnson immediately reconvene the House back into session so we can move a war powers resolution that will end this conflict permanently.
That seems unlikely to happen. What do you actually think is going to happen in this 2-week period? What do you need to assume that doesn't happen? What do you need to see happen or want to see happen in this 2 weeks?
It doesn't happen this week. We'll go back into session next week. We will present a war powers resolution as soon as it becomes available to us to do so as a matter of privilege on the House floor. All we need are a handful of Republicans to join us. The American people strongly oppose this reckless war of choice and know that we should not be spending billions of dollars to drop bombs in Iran while Republicans and Donald Trump are unwilling to spend a dime to actually make life more affordable for the American people, including but limited to by extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits. It's unbelievable of the priorities, and yet we've seen this president's behavior unhinged, unpresidential, unconscionable, including the messages that he's communicated to the American people over the last few days.
Is there a scenario where the Iranian regime gains control? I mean, they have control now of the Strait of Hormuz. According to this ceasefire, if it holds, it seems like for this 2 weeks, they will have control of it as well. And very well, possibly beyond that. If Iran gains full control over passage through the Strait of Hormuz, those were air raid sirens a short time ago in Tel Aviv after Iran launched more missiles at Israel tonight. The latest just a few moments ago. People there are being urged to take shelter. Among them, CNN's Jeremy Diamond, who joins us now. So what are you hearing from Israeli authorities about their opinion on this deal? And is it clear how the Prime Minister, and again, I'm hearing more air raid sirens, so if you got to go, you got to go. But what are you hearing from Israeli officials?
Yeah, that's right, Anderson. You can see actually behind me one of those cluster munitions coming in as the air raid sirens are now sounding here in Tel Aviv. We're going to go to shelter, and you can stick with us as we move. But this is the 4th time now that we have had air raid in Israel since President Trump released that tweet announcing this ceasefire agreement between Iran and the United States. And in fact, this siren is the second one we've seen since the Pakistani prime minister said that the ceasefire had gone into immediate effect. Presumably, if the Pakistani prime minister is to be believed, then the ceasefire is already in effect, and what we are witnessing right now are violations of that ceasefire agreement by Iran, which is continuing to rain down ballistic missile fire over Israel, some of those including cluster munitions. And as I can tell you, the reaction from Israeli officials tonight to this ceasefire agreement is that they will abide by this agreement. They will also cease fire for the next 2 weeks alongside the United States as long as Iran keeps up its end of the bargain here. But Israeli officials are not pleased. I spoke with an Israeli source tonight who said that Israel is reluctantly agreeing to this ceasefire agreement. And they are doing so because, as Prime Minister Netanyahu told me several weeks ago, President Trump is the leader, Israel is the ally in this military campaign in Iran. But ultimately, Israeli officials felt like they still had more to achieve in Iran, more goals to achieve militarily through strikes, and also more targets that they could strike inside of Iran as well. But for the time being, we understand that Israel will abide.
Those are air raid sirens in Israel tonight. Seen it.
It's very fragile, and it's probably going to take a while to work out.
I mean, the president indicating tonight that this is kind of well along on things that possibly could be agreed on. It seems like the 10-point plan that Iran has talked about implies Iran control over the Strait of Hormuz, not just in this 2-week period, but afterward. This conflict has shifted from concern of Iran's nuclear program to let's get the Strait of Hormuz open, and you don't hear a lot about Iran's nuclear program now.
So you've hit the nail on the head. This is the single biggest strategic shift that's taken place and strategic loss for the United States and its allies.
This war will continue to be a thorn in America's side. The reason I say that is because as I watch the comments, one thing that comes to mind is the world is turning. You have people dead locked on what they believe. Islam equals terrorists. We know 9/11 was fake. We know Muslims ain't do that. So then when you get to talking about the Nigeria bombings, the USS Cole bombings, everything that was blamed on bin Laden, you have to question yourself. But I know some of you people won't. Some of you people ain't that smart. And that's okay. I see it in the comments. America is not fighting for its sovereignty. America is fighting for control. America, you have to also remember that Israel started to attack Iran for no reason during the time that they were in war with Palestine, committing genocide in Palestine. Why is nobody even connecting the two? Israel just committed genocide in Palestine, a place where they had no real chance of winning. So what do you think that Israel and America was going to do to Iran if what they believed Iran had would have been true? You think they just would have went in there and said regime change? No. They would have said these people are hiding here, hiding there, bombing schools, hospitals. The same thing would have happened. But Iran stood up and said, no, it's not going to happen to us. And now some of y'all question why Iran is even on the board. You act as if having nukes is really a bad thing. Everybody else has nukes. Everybody knows if you start to press nukes, it's really going to be all over with. So what's wrong with Iran having nukes? If they're the big dog in their region, what's wrong with them having nukes? They need to have some type of deterrent program. So Iran's deterrent is just, hey, just don't nuke us. They don't have nothing else. Nothing else could be on the board for them. I don't see why everybody looks at Iran as if they're supposed to just give in. We can all agree that America has done some trifling shit over the years. We can all agree on that. But if somebody got to attacking America, we're going to all be like, hey, wait a minute. But don't nobody want to hear that. It's okay when America attacks people for no reason, bully people around, push people around. But what about their right to stand up? I'm no politician, but I know if you sock me in the face, I got every right to punch you back. Or at least try. We are forgetting as Americans and as just humans and mankind that we have a moral compass. We have a moral compass that the shit that we see and we make adjustments to make it fit a narrative of why. Somebody in the live once said, I said, it's okay to have, for Iran to have nukes. Everybody else have nukes. He's gonna say, so it's cool for me to have a gun and a 3-year-old to have a gun? Like, this is the logic, the common sense that people have nowadays. Not that these people have been getting bullied. America has been starving them out for over 50 years. None of the terrorists on 9/11 that supposedly did it were Iranian. All of those names had ties to Saudi Arabia. Why Saudi Arabia wasn't bombed? They weren't from Iraq. They weren't from Libya. Why was these countries taken out? And now you're trying to take out Iran? If you don't see what I'm saying, let's look at it this way. America and Israel attacked Iran because they were weak and they thought they were going to be able to go in there and kill everybody and put in a puppet government. Is that cool? Let's throw everything else out the window. Iran was attacked. Do they have a right to defend themselves? But we know America and everybody else in the world thought Iran was done for. When the war first popped off, everybody thought Iran was done for. But now that Iran isn't done for, it's a debate. at Blementree. It's the same thing. It's a pattern that we are forgetting that is right in front of our face. People might ask me, well, how can you say this about America if you're American? That's the reason I can say it, because I'm an American. I have sat back, we have all sat back and watched America go into country after country after country after country. And it's all been for bullshit. All of it's been for bullshit. Look at Afghanistan. Y'all did all this warring in Afghanistan for the Taliban to still have control. This is these people's land. Let them have their own land and let them deal with it. Let Israel and Iran fight that out. They're in the vicinity of each other. That has nothing to do with America. And that's why NATO isn't involved. Trump thought he was going to be able to get NATO involved with the Strait of Hormuz. And what did the country start saying? Yeah, we'll pay that toll. We'll pay that toll. Because that's what America was going to come in and do. And Iran is saying fine. But we have to have control in order. If you don't want us to have nukes, then we have to have control of this strait to guarantee y'all won't bomb us. And what they saying? Nah. The attacker is able to set the standards for a ceasefire? Is that not manipulation at its finest? Not all Americans that did vote for Trump or supported Trump or even are Democrats. A lot of them are waking up in the seat right for right and wrong for wrong. Even the youth of other countries are waking up and seeing that it's the governments that are causing this mass confusion. We need to change the governments. Even for other countries. It's not even the Americans that they hate. They are telling people they hate this American government because this government keeps sticking its nose where it doesn't belong. That's why. Let me know what y'all think, man. I see the comments, man. I'm going to keep saying it because I really believe somebody, an entity, is forcing Trump to make all these dumb decisions. Because I just sit back and I look and I say, why is all these American people being tagged with pedophilia, the ball movement? Why is these American people getting exposed? Because to me, when I look at it, looking at the picture, it will make me dislike America. It will make me look at America in an adverse way. It's like I know everything about you before I saw you, and I still don't like you. Not only that, but your constituents are finding out what you guys are really up to. And now they are hating and having adverse action towards those that rule them. And it just makes me say, how is all this information getting out if these people's friends own the media? Oh, it is their friends because there's an agenda. This is just what I sit back and when I got 5, I talk to myself about. We're not seeing no overseas people in these Epstein files. We know they're there, but the only ones that are being talked about are American citizens. Out of everybody that visited Epstein's Island, the only people that are being exposed are Americans. And then you have Trump ramp up the American hatred by going to war after he said, no war, it's time for peace. Not only make the bigger states have a dislikement for America and their politicians because of what they do, but make the constituents of America have that same type of dislikement for you. America is being destroyed and nobody sees it. America had exclusive rights to the oil of Saudi Arabia. You couldn't buy that oil. I always say this unless you had American dollars. It's been that way since the 1950s. Since the 1950s. And when Trump got into office just last year, why, if he's a great businessman, why he didn't keep that deal going? Why was that deal able to slip out of his hands? Why he didn't renegotiate, redirect, or re-compromise to keep that deal exclusive? That deal brings everybody to trade with America. But he didn't do that as a businessman. He let that deal go to China. So now everybody has to buy Chinese goods in order to buy Arabian oil. And then, and I'm going to say this again, he's a businessman. Why would that deal slip through his fingers? Again, somebody or something is trying to strangle America. And then he gets bad information and assessments to go kidnap the president of another country. Like, people are really going to bow to that. And in that move, what happened with that oil? Exclusive rights went to China again. People don't see the deals. That puts America in a bad light. Yet again, you kidnapped a president of a country in order to take his oil. And it didn't work out for you. So now you get into cahoots with Israel to go take over the 4th largest oil reserves in the world. And you thought it was going to be an easy clusterfuck, but it turned into an all big shit show. Let me read some of these comments. Contrary to popular belief, Israel is our ally. If they ask for help, we help, as do they when we ask. Look at this logically, not emotionally. Jack Raya, I definitely agree with you on that part. I definitely agree with you. But this is a friendship forged in manipulation and blackmail. We know this now. We actually know that this whole friendship was manipulated in order for America to always have Israel's back. Now, even if that's taken off the board, and let's just say that's a lie. Does it still change the fact that America and Israel attacked Iran for no reason? For no good reason, let me add. What about that? Like I said, let's just deal with the picture. Israel was attacking Iran while they were attacking Palestine. Did you forget that? And that's the problem. Now that Iran has weapons that can reach its current enemies or those or its current opposition, it's a problem. It wasn't a problem when everybody's missiles could reach Iran. And I'm not like on the side of Iran as in, you know, as a terrorist, because I know that's what some of y'all look at Iran as. But I'm on the side of Iran as protecting their sovereignty. When people say that Iran is accumulating weapons of mass destruction, then that means China has weapons of mass destruction, Israel has weapons of mass destruction, Russia has them, America has them, Canada has them, Italy has them. Like, so when you say that Iran can't have them, why not? Because the victim can now become the victimizer, and the bully doesn't want to become the victim. That's what this is about. That's what it's about. If you look, let me blow this up right here. The Strait of Hormuz. That says Iran and Dubai. That's who should control that. Do you hear Dubai crying? Do you hear Dubai saying anything? I understand that the Strait of Hormuz was a free belt of water, a free body of water, right? But let's not be idiots. If America and Israel is to get Iran, do you think that the next government is not going to start charging people to come through there? You would be a fool if you think they're not. Having the fourth largest reserve of oil in the world, right? And controlling the flow of 20% oil out into the world. On a world basis, when it could flow worldly, that country would get money. Iran already has to sell its oil at a very reduced price. It has to, because of blockade. But just imagine if Iran was able to sell their oil without no blockades. And controlled the Strait of Hormuz with a toll payment. The oil alone would bring unseen wealth. If you think that this war is about terrorism, wrong. You're dead wrong. At Colbert Spencer, maritime law, some say that that is an international body of water, but they don't say that about Egypt. They don't say that about Panama. They're not going to say that when Israel opens or tries to open that body of water so they can have access and they can start charging people to come through Israel and Palestine to get to this body of water here. It's not fun when the rabbit got the gun. And whatever happens, what I'm really for is just America to get out the war. I don't care if Israel, that's not one of my American concerns. As an American, I want America to get the fuck out of the war. Because if America is out the war, a lot of things would change maybe. And Iran is already saying that certain things. Y'all already went over there and destroyed their country. Pay for it. Pay for it. Recognize Iran as a sovereign country. Take the blockades off and deal with them. Whatever Israel has to do, that's what Israel has to do. NATO is not getting involved in the war because they don't vouch for the war. So clearly, if NATO's not in the war and America's not in the war, maybe that will just make Israel say, hey, you know what? Fuck it, we recognize you too. But it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. Because Israel doesn't want it to happen. You also have to remember who Benjamin Netanyahu is. In 1979, there was an Iranian hijacking of a plane that landed, I don't think it was Lebanon. I think it was in, it was in Israel. And they end up lying to the hijackers, to the terrorists, right? Told them something was wrong with the plane. They got the Israeli forces to sneak onto the plane and kill all terrorists. Now, this is what I have a problem with. They kill all terrorists. They don't take no prisoners, right? That's what's strange to me. How do these people able to get through this and hijack an Israeli or land there without Israel even knowing? So to me, it's a setup, but bypass that. One of the people that was in the Israeli forces that killed them Iranians that day was none other than Benjamin Netanyahu. So from 1979, he was already a spy. He was already against certain people in Israel, just saying we're gonna be cool with this. He was a part of the group that wanted more. He was a part of the ideology that we're going to take more. So Benjamin Netanyahu has a different understanding to this situation than everybody else. He wants them people gone. Just like y'all, everybody says that, oh, Iran says death to America. Well, Israel says death to Iran. Let them hash it out. Because ain't no Iranian ever sent no missile over here. And they already told the American government, get the fuck out of the war or we going to continue to start bombing your interests in this region. America is making it not just bad for Americans, but they making it bad for a whole lot of other people as well. That's why nobody's negotiating with America. That's why Iran is not negotiating with America. Because they don't negotiate with terrorists. This narrative of Iran being a terrorist, Iran didn't surprise attack American bases. Iran didn't surprise American military with a missile coming over to North America. They did nothing of the such. And how can you justify in calling Iran a terrorist when we know America's footprint, America's government footprint all over the world? Vietnam, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Africa, Afghanistan, Iraq, Egypt, Libya, Iran, what else? Come on now. Like, do we forget the atrocities of America? That's why I speak out against it, because as an American, as a person with a moral compass, it's wrong to just be over there doing what they doing. Let them figure it out. We had to figure it out with people that stole this land. We have to sit back and figure it out. If the citizens in America start rioting and doing civil unrest and all that other fuckery, right? What's gonna happen? You broke the law, you going to jail. What's the difference with motherfuckers bombing an all-girls school? You need to go to jail. America blames Israel, Israel blames America. How about both of y'all been attacking these motherfuckers so both of y'all get the blame? Americans are forgetting to have a moral compass. Common sense is no longer being common anymore. How do we say we leaders of the free world, but we committing genocide? We threatening people with genocide. I understand Lil Plythe, Jassira, Jaccara. I understand, but America has no business over there at all. Listen, if the Iranians massacred 40,000 civilians, do you honestly think they are able to get 14 million Iranians out in order to protect their nuclear resources, their power plants, forming human shields. This is propaganda. 40,000 and nothing. Oh, yeah, it's 40,000, but there's nothing else. We just know this. And who are we supposed to believe? America? The people that's over there committing these atrocities? If 40,000 happened, why isn't Iran up in an uproar? Why isn't the government being able to be contested? If 40,000 Iranians died, were massacred, the Iranian people would know this. They would have saw this. And they would have been upset about it. And they would have took to the streets some more. I'm not saying all Iranians are down for the IRGC. Just like all Americans aren't down with this war that they're in right now. But one thing I can tell you is 40,000 civilians did not get massacred. Why? Because if 40,000 Iranian civilians were massacred, the American military and the Israeli military would definitely be able to manipulate that situation. Definitely be able to manipulate that situation. 40,000 civilians? That's how you topple the government right there. Hey, look, man, they finna keep killing y'all, man. Let us get up in here. And how long ago did these 40,000 civilians get massacred? Might I ask? I'm asking for a friend. Ooh. Big Mouth Tim. Send me over where? To Iran to fight? So now you're telling me that I can't criticize my own government. If I criticize my own government, I need to leave. So conversation doesn't rule the nation. So the American government is just perfect. I guess that's what your ancestors told the slaves. Where they was like, hey, this ain't cool. They was like, well, leave. They was like, all right. As soon as they tried to leave, they whooped their ass and chopped their feet off. Like, come on now. So if it happened a week or two before you went in, how come another 40 ain't got massacred? Another 40,000 ain't got massacred? Fuck it, let's just jump and say 90,000 got massacred and America still hasn't able to manipulate that situation. Nor Israel has able to manipulate that situation. And they the greatest of manipulators when it comes to this strategic backdooring. I am not, and I honestly, Tim, to every man and woman that has died being in the army and in the military of America, I feel for them. My hearts go out to them. I thank them for the service. But if you was to bring them people back and ask them, especially the people of certain wars, they would tell you that they died for nothing. Do you forget about the military servicemen and women that come back and say that they fought for nothing? The service men and the service military men and women that come back to this country and can't get basic medical, can't get taken care of. They have to pay out of their pockets when these damages happen to them while they were in war. Cold hypocrisy. Definitely, Jasira, Jackara. I definitely appreciate that comment. No difference of opinion is great. It opens debate and learning and opportunity. I definitely appreciate that, man. And that's what the platform podcast I Got Five is all about. I Got Five, let's talk. You feel me? If you got 5 minutes, let's have an open discussion to where if we're friends, we can debate to where we might learn something from each other. That is an opportunity of knowledge, of seeing something different from a different person's perspective. You still may walk away from the conversation and the dialogue with your same beliefs, and that's cool. That's cool. At least we can have dialogue. It's certain things. I am an American, and I'm black, bro. But one thing I won't stand for is saying that as an American, if you criticize America, you gotta go. That's for any country, bro. You got a right to criticize your government for doing things wrong in your name. No, Jasira, I have seen the protests, and that's why I said that I know that all Iranians ain't down with the IRGC. Just like all Americans ain't down with the government, that all American citizens ain't down with this war that America is involved in the current situation. So I would be a lunatic to believe that all 90 million Iranians like that government. Come on now. I know somebody lied to you. That exactly. Just share color doesn't matter. I only said that I'm black because, we have to understand that difference of opinion comes from somewhere, right? My difference of opinion may be the same to a white person, but the way they tell me it lets me know their feelings of that situation. It lets me know a deeper, it gives me a deeper insight. Because, okay, now if you feel that way and you're telling me, or I know that you're this color or that color, now through this dialogue, I might want to ask, because I might be wrong or something. I might say, hey, white people don't eat tacos. That's what I heard. You feel me? But that dialogue allows me to ask those type of questions, though, or to get deeper into that. But really, it's just to say that it's not just white Americans that's not cool with this war. It's blacks. It's Americans. Because at the end of the day, no matter what color you are, we are here. We're American. So America first. And that's what I relate with Trump with. America first. But the American foreign policy, I know you lying. I am not down with that bullshit. I've never been down with American foreign policy. Because for one, it never benefits the American citizens. Never. Jace, or Jace. I'm gonna just call you Jay. Hey Jay, I said that because like that's the thing. Like white people eat tacos, but I just threw it out there. But it's just like you able to you get more comfortable with people, man. Even if you think like I remember it was a white supremacist used to come to the mosque, and one day I'm like, I was tripping at first. Imam was like, nah, we gonna talk to him. And he been there a few times, right? So, we talked to him like, hey man, why do you keep coming here? Do you want to be Muslim? He was like, nah, I would never be Muslim. He said, but in order for me to say you my enemy, I gotta know what you believe in and I gotta know why I don't like that. And we was all like, cool, bro, keep coming. And he only came one more time, and he couldn't he was like, bro, he was just basically like, that's an Arab, that's a black man religion. He believed in white Christianity. So even though he didn't find no flaws, but through that, it made me say that through dialogue, through understanding what I don't like and talking to somebody that might be keen on what I don't like may benefit my argument or may see me, give me insight and understanding or just make me be stern in what I believe. But at least it gives me more credibility to what I believe in, or it gives me better credibility in understanding knowledge. Because if I accept it, I know right and I know wrong. And what I said right there and how I fixed that right there, it wasn't. So now that's credible knowledge. Okay. For sure. I definitely appreciate. I want to say a shout out and say my appreciation to everybody that's in the comments indulging, that hit the like button, man. I don't get monetized for this, man. I don't get monetized. I do this purely for information purposes only, for the dialogue. Because I know it's people out there that don't agree, but I know it's people out there that agree. But we gotta learn to overstand that conversation rules the nation. Compromisation brings about understanding and overstanding. You may not like butter, but you like pancakes. You feel what I'm saying? Even though everybody says butter and pancakes go together, I'm just different, bro. And I'll be like, okay, cool. But now we dialogue on what kind of pancakes you like, though. Blueberry, chocolate, you know what I'm saying? So, again, that's what the podcast is about, man. I got 5 Let's Talk. Whether you agree with me or not. You see, I don't hide comments. I don't shy from comments. Everybody is able to cuss and do what they want. The only thing I say is just don't bring threatening people's lives or say you hope certain people get killed. Let's not just do that, If that's how you feel, keep that to yourself, man. Jay, yeah, man. I think that, all religions have something beautiful towards it. But to say that Christianity hasn't been deemed a white religion, a Caucasian, or an Anglo-Saxon religion, I think we would be fooling ourselves, man. Because it has, and I know you probably don't believe this, when we think of Christianity, or when people think of Christianity or speak on Christianity, they never bring up the Coptic Christians of Ethiopia, the oldest Christians in the world, with the oldest, purest Bible in the world. They never bring up them. They only bring up the King James Version and Christianity as a European whole. They look at it as Christianity came to Africa. So when you have that concept, not just in mind, but when you have that concept in media, pictures, merch, television, like when you been that way for hundreds of years, I mean, shit, the color of Jesus will explain it all. And that's another thing about this war. I just think that a lot of it has to do with religious views. And I do believe that. And I think that's why America needs to set this war out as well, because America is not really Christian, and we damn sure know America not Islamic. And I think that this war has more to do with a religious concept than an oil concept. I think this war has to go back to the Quran, to the Bible. And I think that the hatred that is being pushed out from both sides is built off of religious hatred. And that's just how I feel. If y'all can for me, man, hit that like button. It don't cost y'all nothing, man. I'm not monetized, so the likes do, I do appreciate the likes, man. Even if you don't sub, please hit that like button. It don't cost you nothing. Come on now, Jay. You know you fabricating the truth right there. When you go to Africa, Jesus is black. You know you fabricating the truth. Did you just not see when that pastor told his flock that Jesus was black, they beat the shit out of him? I haven't seen nowhere in Africa Christianity besides Ethiopia that supports a black Jesus. I want to say Jesus is black when you go to India because they have a racial system as well. The lighter you are, the more to the deity you are. The darker you are, the more of a subject you are. So that doesn't hold up in their caste system. It doesn't hold up. Russia knows that Jesus is black. We just saw them open up their ancient museum vaults to pictures of Jesus being black. The true pictures of Jesus. And none of them was on a cross, if you really saw that. Iran did it right after Russia did it. Yeah, they might know this, but how many people are going to accept that? How many people, even as black people, even as white people, you can say Jesus is black, but you will not put up a black Jesus in your house. You won't do it. I will rather go to a white person's house and see a black Jesus and say that he clout chasing before I even talk to him or even after I talk to him, than to go to a person that tells me Jesus is black and go to your house and you still got a white Jesus. Shout out to Australia, man. Definitely appreciate you for tapping in and tuning in. If you don't mind, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, man. I do appreciate your indulgence. I don't think that by you being Australian, your views is limited. I wouldn't, say your news is limited. I mean, you have the internet, man. If you just, man, I mean, type in Black Jesus, Iran, Black Jesus, Russia, you will be able to see things. I mean, the internet is a beautiful thing, but just like everything being beautiful, it got a dark side to it. It really does. Oh, okay. But I thought you said I'm in Australia. Oh, okay. Oh, and that's another thing, bro. That's bad. I don't think that no religious news should be limited. I'm a Muslim. I don't believe that Jesus was killed. I don't believe Jesus is the Son of God. But as a Muslim, I have a right to allow them to preach what they want to preach, bro. As long as they're not attacking my religion. I have a right to believe what I want to believe. You have a right to believe what you want to believe as well. And I think that a lot of concepts are fucked up because a lot of people bring religion into concept. If people left religion, I think that if people left religion out of this concept with Iran, I think it'd be different. But they use that Islam is terrorist, Iran is terrorist. But we forget about what these so-called Christian nations do in the name of bringing Christianity. So I think that people need to leave their religious aspect out of it, unless you are like some of these Islamic countries where their law is Sharia law. A lot of Christian nations don't abide by that because they have no Christian law. They have the law, but they don't impose the law. And that's the biggest fight here. A lot of people have a problem with Iran because they impose the law. That's something that region and that country has to figure out on its own, even though I'm Muslim. If you don't want to be there, if you don't want to live under Sharia law, I think you should be able to leave. No problem. No, you're not a spy, none of that. But if you leave, you can't come back. And if you do come back, we're telling you that we're watching you. We don't want it to be a surprise. That's the same thing as if I'm an American and I say I want to go fight in the Iranian war. And they say, well, or I say, well, I want to leave America and give up my citizenship and go live in Iran because I'm a Muslim. Or even if I still have citizenship and I go live in Iran and I come back, automatically they're going to detain me because they think I'm a spy. Automatically, when and if they do release me, I'm going to be in 24 surveillance for the rest of my life. Do you think that's fair? But that's what America does. But if another country does it, it's not fair. It's human rights violations. I think foreign policy on a lot of scales, but especially America, their foreign policy is trickery and flat out war crime behavior. What goes against my religion, Jay? Hold on. Now when you get into the conversation of the Quran, when that ayat was revealed. It was during times of a war with the infidels. And the infidels had broke a treaty. And what was said was, wherever you find them hiding, strike them down and kill them. Because they did the same thing. So they broke the treaty. And now it's wartime. It doesn't mean that all people that don't believe in Islam should be put to death just because they don't be put to death. During the times of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Jews and Christians lived underneath his rule. Did they have to pay a tax? Yeah, that's the same type of tax we pay here to America, to the American government. We pay the tax to the American government to protect us and to honor our rights. And that's what the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, did during his times and during the Caliphate times, when we had caliphs. Jews were able to still have their places of worship, Christians theirs. But was there the attack in Islam? No. No. So you can't say that this is what it says in the Quran without having clarity of it. And this is why you have to know when certain ayats were revealed, certain chapters were revealed. Why were they revealed? And if you have the good Quran with the commentary at the bottom, it will tell you why this is being said. It will give further explanation. It will give a doctrine at the bottom of what his assessments are. But that's just like saying, it says, kill all infidels, but what about when God was killing women and children? What about when the Bible says don't eat pork? What about when the Bible says don't put Christmas trees in your house? That's not my country, Jay. That's not my country. I'm saying what I believe is right as a Muslim. If I was the ruler of that country, you'd be able to leave. But if you come back because you in this regime or this government party is still in power, we're gonna have you under surveillance because you said you wanted to leave because you didn't like us. You felt that we were ruining your humanity. And that was cool. We said that was cool, but you want to leave. Now you want to complain about how we treat you we're not going to trip on you, lock you up, but we're going to tap your phones. We're going to not watch your bathroom, but we might, we will bug your house. We're not going to lie to you, You go to sleep, we're still going to be listening. You wake up, go to the store, we're going to be right there. You may not see us, but we're going to be there. Nothing is wrong with that. And I feel that people should understand that if you don't like a country, and I go to fight with Iran, and America allows me to come back, I know what's going to happen. But why would I come back? Because I know America going to put me in jail. I made the choice to leave. Why is my homeland the big bad wolf? I think America does the same thing with the killing of people, certain people. I think America does the same thing. But again, if 40,000 people, Iranians, died and it was a massacre, we would be hearing reports about that. it will be another 40,000 getting killed because they're in an uprising. Listen to what you're saying, Jay. 40,000 protesting civilians were massacred. And that's why America stepped into the war. Why haven't another 40,000, 10,000, 5,000, 2,500 been reported yet? Why no massacres have been reported, but that only single 40,000? So you're telling me that they massacred 40,000 people and the rest of the 90 million fell in line? But you're saying that they're still protesting. So why hasn't the Iranian government killed 40,000 more? If you're saying because we went in, that has not stopped or changed anything that Iran is doing. You went in to do what? To bomb infrastructure? If all this is happening because the Iranian government killed 40,000 people, why it ain't happening again? That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I've seen these reports. I've seen these reports, but the only reason why I refuse to report on them is because there is no actual confirmation. The only people that are reporting this is America and Israel. I can't vouch for information that is backed by America and Israel. Not even a lot of things that they're saying that they're bombing. Because Trump told us that he took out all their whole military, but they're still sending missiles. They still have people running government. Obviously, he ain't did what he said he did. I can't vouch for that. And I'm not saying it's not plausible. But what I am saying is, I can't vouch for that. Have I seen the one report about 40,000 civilians being killed and massacred? Yes, I have. When I look into where they getting these reports from, America and Israel. Now, if Germany, Africa, Italy came out and was like, oh man, the massacre has just taken place, and I believe it. But after America or in Israel starts reporting it, then everywhere else in the world reports it the next day. These are the things that just makes me go, is that really true? You have to remember, like even back when Bush was elected president, the only news that reported he won was Channel 2 News. Everybody else said that he lost. And then they had to come back and say, we were wrong, Channel 2 was right. And then come to find out his family members are the head of reporting news over there. It's a funny game. There are a lot of reports, but these reporters are these are reporters that have been in Iran for a time. People been reporting, right? But why did America report it first? If there's other reporters, why did all these reporters started reporting it after America? And we know what Trump said about news. He called it the fake news. And I'm not saying everything's fake. And I'm not saying the 40,000 didn't die. But it makes me question when 40,000 or 500 ain't died again. We are just reporting that these 40,000 civilians died. But there are no new reports of massacres coming out of Iran at all. Can we agree on that? If you have people on the ground and no new reports are coming out about massacres, you honestly think that Iran stopped massacring its civilians because America got into the war? Or because America is going to send ground troops? I don't think so. If you kill 40,000 civilians, you ain't got no problem killing 40,000 more. You just don't. Like I said, I'm not saying that that's not true, but I'm just saying if they kill 40,000, they don't got a problem killing 500, 200, hell, even 75. I'm not saying that they haven't threatened. I've said that all Iranians ain't down with the movement. Of course there's protesting, but there's not enough protesting for the situation to be manipulated. I'm sorry. It's just not. I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. I don't stand for the national anthem in America. I don't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance neither. But they do be trying to make that a crime now in America, don't they? Oh, well, you're not here, so they are trying to make it a crime that if you don't stand for the national anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance, then you can be fined. So that is like threatening you to stand to support something that you don't want. See, this is the problem that I have with foreign policy. You can say that the Iranian government threatened the women's soccer team for not singing the national anthem, but America is trying to lock people up for not standing for the Pledge of Allegiance and the national anthem as well. I think it's the same thing. But it's forcing you to do something you don't want to do, which can lead to America saying they're leaders of the free world, so we're not going to kill you, but we're going to lock you up for being an enemy of the state because you didn't stand for the national anthem. And I get what you're saying too. You're going to kill somebody for not standing for the national anthem. I mean, that's beyond me. But again, if you killed 5,000, if you killed 40,000, you don't have a problem killing the women's soccer team. I mean, shit, let's put the bat on the ground and let's just chew bubblegum and talk shit. Okay, even, let's go with your narrative, Jay, right? Even if you say that's what's going on, even if Iran did kill 40,000 civilians, that's not America's problem. America, the American citizens has a heart. We have a heart that says that is fucked up and that government needs to find better ways to deal with their people. But that is not our fucking problem to go fix. America keeps saying that, oh, we're going over here because these people are treating their people wrong. And look at the countries that they went to. Libya, Iraq, I mean, Yemen, Iran. Look at these countries, Afghanistan. Look at these countries that America said that they were bringing freedom, justice, and equality, and look how they living right now. Look at these countries. That is America's foreign policy at its finest. Siphoning everything out of whatever they control. No, it's unconstitutional at the moment. But if Trump is really getting their ways, he has already said he wanted to make this, I don't remember if it was a felony or a misdemeanor, or a misdemeanor turning it into a felony the second time. I don't actually recall that part. But to even have this talk, this banter of forcing people to stand for the president, you know what the hell, I can't say, I'm tongue-tied right now. It may be unconstitutional, but this is just the framework. If the president can say it, if he can sit up here and say that he will kill a whole civilization, you can't sit up here and tell me he won't. You can't sit up here and tell me he won't. And this, what y'all are failing to realize is that if Iran and their government wants to behead the soccer team for not singing their national anthem, that's their fucking problem. We're American. At the moment, we don't have that fucking problem. So let them deal with that shit. Let Israel, their neighboring countries, let their neighbors deal with that shit. Tell their neighbors to go knock on their door and tell them they don't like that shit. And let them deal with their response. I'm American. I'm tired of having to deal with trying to be the fixer and everything. And me as a citizen gets a bad rap. I'm tired of it. I don't give a fuck if I supported you. Fuck, I'm an American. I got a right to criticize you. It's a time to say it's enough. The global police is not working for us, bro. It's just not working for us. It never worked for us. We always get into wars that we say, hey, don't treat them like that. And then we go over there, make a gang of 8 people hate us, kill a gang of 8 people for what? For what? To turn around and for the same shit to be going on. It ain't like, nigga, we went over there to go police some shit and then they started doing good and we was like, all right, cool, we out of here. No, we've never went anywhere and left it better than when we came. Everywhere has always been more fucked up. And if you don't agree with that as an American, then shit, hey. Yeah, hey Jay, definitely. I want to thank you for your service, but I mean, you served under Bill Clinton, the guy that gave China 3 supercomputers, and now we're complaining about China being more technically advanced in computers than America will ever be in 20 years. That's the type of motherfucker you served under that sold America out. America could have been on some China shit right now if Bill Clinton wouldn't have sold them motherfuckers 3 supercomputers. And you might say, oh, well, they gave them back, or we know what they do. They duplicated them. Got what they needed, and now we sitting 20 years behind them. And then he reconstructed laws in order for him to be able, or his government to be able, and his people to be able to sell them to China. Red flag. But this is the president that you served under. That's when I say that it is people that served in the military that come back and be like, damn, bro, you was doing this fuckery while I was over there fighting for us? I feel cheated. I have been cheated. Because for me to be bringing sovereignty to people, you selling the country out. I'm gonna be honest with you. That Opal guy, I'm not an expert on everything Iran is doing wrong, but one thing I will tell you, Iran has a right to defend itself. Iran got a right to deal with its own fucking problems without interference. Ain't nobody coming over here to interfere on our behalf of the fuck shit that our American government is doing to us as American citizens, spying on us, taking our information, selling our information. Ain't nobody here helping us. Ain't nobody coming over there saying, hey, you need to stop doing your American citizens like this. So I don't want to hear nothing about, oh, America, nigga, is gonna fit. Ain't nobody over here for us. And I'm not saying that as in, you feel me, it's happening to me, so let that happen to them. No, that's not our fucking business. Just like everybody else is like, hey, America, what they do to y'all, shit, y'all done. That's not our business. Mind your own fucking business. They have a right to fuck up and get it right. I mean, come on now. I'm not saying that Iran is a perfect country, a perfect government, but they got a right to deal with their own bullshit. Them and Israel. Let them motherfuckers fight it out. Let them motherfuckers get into whatever the fuck they got going on. But America needs to stay the fuck out of it. I mean, at Dave Canada, Dave in Canada, yeah, man, the Western media wants to paint, everything messed up, man. These countries are doing something right, and I'm not saying that they're doing everything right, but these countries are thriving. If you take the blockade off of these countries, the tariffs off of this country, maybe they won't have this type of regime. Maybe they need, you know what I'm saying, global interaction to act like let's say that they're savages. Maybe they're savages because they're not interacting with civilians. Jennifer, yeah, and that's another thing of why I say if civilians are making human shields around power plants, Jay, how in the fuck did their government kill 40,000 civilians? It doesn't add up. These people are willing to put their lives on the line. And I know people are going to say, oh, well, they're threatening them and they're doing this. That should be more of a reason for them to rise up, for them to, you feel me, do what they do, for the situation to be manipulated. But it's not. But Jay, that's the thing. Sometimes your allies are wrong. Sometimes your allies have an agenda that they want to see through, but they use something. Sometimes you got to tell your ally, like the allies are telling America right now, hey man, that's your fight. I don't got nothing to do with that. So please leave us out of that. Stop talking about us on the news, calling us cowards. Please, we don't have nothing to do with that. Why America can't tell Israel that? Why not? Why America can't say, hey, ally, man, this your fight. And that's one thing that a lot of Americans ain't liking. That nigga, this is somebody else fighting. We gotta send our troops over there to die for somebody else's shit. And I'm not saying you take a vote to go to war or shit like that, but this is not something that it was our agenda. That's not gonna sell weapons, though. Capitalists gonna make profit. James, it may be a oxymoron, but this is the thing about freedom of speech. Nothing, I mean, not the thing about freedom of speech, but this is the thing about how the world works. Nothing is perfect. So if I am a capitalist, right, I can't speak about certain things I don't like about capitalism. If I'm a Democrat, I have to agree to everything that the Democrats do. If I'm a Republican, I have to be cool with forced labor or getting over on immigrants for labor. That's the thing that made America great. Being able to criticize the American government without saying, hey, we don't need censorship. I should be able to complain, and we should be able to say, hey, all right, whatever. You have your views. I'm not calling for, oh, down with the American government and woochie woo woo. Do I say it needs to change? Fuck yeah. But it's not an oxymoron. Imagine coming in on a brother Obama. No, I wanted Jennifer. I wanted Bomb. I don't know. Can't speak for everybody else, but I wanted. Yeah, Jay, as an ally, they flourished, but they didn't need nothing from America. They didn't need protection from America. They were thriving because what they already had going on. America didn't bring nothing new to the table for them. They were just an ally in trade with America. Yeah, we gonna fuck with y'all. We gonna trade with y'all. We gonna. But once they said we're gonna nationalize the oil, America said, hey, hold on. What are you doing? We ain't gonna like that, right? We're gonna have to bomb you. We're gonna have to place you on the enemy list now, right? But as an ally, I was flourishing. But now I want my country to get rich because I'm gonna nationalize the oil. Now I'm the enemy? Wow. So much for being allies. Damn, bingo, gringo, you got him, the Opal guy. James, you can have that, that problem, because I have a problem with people that support Israel. I have a problem with people that support the likes of, let me pick one right now. Damn, who can I call on, man? South African government. You have a right to have a problem with people that you don't see that is doing the right thing. Well, at least that's what my podcast is here for. Even though we may not see the eye to eye, ain't nobody perfect. But the Al-Aqsa Mosque Brigade is formed out of what? What was it formed out of, though, James? Hey, Jace, I didn't see that, but if your family is in the military, man, I do hope they return safe. That's all I could really say, not really being an asshole. I'm not one to have my children go into the military due to the fact that the foreign policy is full of shit. You go fight for this country and you come back home and you get no recognition. You're not a hero. I see homeless veterans every day. And some of y'all might say that, well, they want to be homeless. Nah, not all of them. Thank you, Opal guy. No, I'll be having trolls. I got this one troll named Xavier. He trolls a lot. He says I don't know how to have a debate, and it's just when you have a one-track mind and you're not, the only reason why you listen is to respond and not listen to understand. I mean, it's a fucked up dialogue. But I do appreciate, what I'm saying, the light. If you can, hit the subscribe button, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend. I do appreciate that. Thank you so much, though. Yeah, Jennifer, I don't get what he's trying to say, neither. It doesn't really make any sense. The theory, I thought you was talking about the actual, military. You're talking about the theory then. The theory of Al-Aqsa Mars, I mean, that's something that has to do with religion. And if you have a problem with that theory, then that means you have a problem with Islam. And that's something that you probably need to work out within your own spiritual dialogue, and searching your religious books. Appreciate it, Jennifer. This platform podcast is like it's all in the name. I got 5. Let's talk. Let's talk about it, man. Let's find a way to open up dialogue with each other and just be able to have a safe space. We not harming nobody. You know what I'm saying? And you shouldn't want to harm somebody because they have a different outlook to life than you. But if that outlook to life comes with harming people, then I think that everybody has a problem with that. But here, I just want to discuss topics. I just want to, us to be able to, even though we'll never meet, just know how other people think out there, even if it goes against our outlook. You have to know how the enemy thinks. You have to know how the opposition thinks. You have to know how anyone thinks to ascertain knowledge. Yeah, South Africa is really, when you talk about regimes, when you talk about certain things, South Africa is like top. But nobody talks about it. Nobody dares. Why? And I just feel it's one of those, we know what's going on, but hey, do your thing. It's okay for them to do their thing, but it's not okay for Iran to do their thing. I just find it very hypocritical. I think that if you're going to talk about Iran, you need to go to South Africa. If you talk about Iran, you need to go to Saudi Arabia, because the Saudi family is how that region became named. It's named Arabia. But since America backed the Saud family into power, it's became known as Saudi Arabia, another regime. So when you have a problem with, Iran, it's a lot of other places that come to mind for me. That Opal guy, I would say this, man. If you voted for Trump on some racist shit, because I know a lot of people did, but if you voted for Trump as in some American first, like we need to get back to growing our own shit, buying our own shit, stop importing shit that we don't really fucking need. America needs to buy it. We don't need some French glasses to look fresh. We don't need these Versace suits, and we got American artists and tailors that can do good jobs and better jobs than anybody else. So people got drawn in on that with Trump. And some of them might have went to the military because they felt like they was gonna defend something good. And then look what happened. Shit. They got thrown for the okie doke. So I wouldn't say, oh, well. Yeah, I don't agree neither, Jennifer. Like, I really don't. Like, that shit is wild. Yes, Opal, very few people do want to be homeless. And the veterans, even if they think they want to be homeless, they might have a psychotic, some type of mental degradation going on. Because no human being or mankind wants to be homeless. Something upstairs is off and it needs to be fixed. Yes, Pete is. He definitely is. No, I don't think so, Jennifer. Thank you. Definitely appreciate this. The subscription, man. Appreciate it. Means a whole lot. I try to, man. We need to. We got so, especially as Americans, and I think too, just as humans and mankind, I think that we have got so far into being violent and to not having a moral code anymore, a moral compass, that I think that it, it's time, man, because a lot of us been tricked in believing things. A lot of us been tricked into, pushing and endorsing certain agendas. And now that we are seeing that these agendas are only here to cripple and hurt us. And when I say us as an American country. Because like I had made examples earlier of the deals that were on the table for Trump to take care of, and he didn't take care of them, but yet he's a businessman. I see that as somebody striking a blow and somebody trying to further cripple the outcome of America, from within, all these American elites being put on blast and exposed for being pedophiles, as they should. But it's just weird to me that no other countries are being exposed. It's just wild to me. And then when you do find like an Israeli person, I'm not gonna say it goes under the rug, but them stories don't get no traction. James, that theory was implemented and has been proven that Mossad agents have infiltrated and were some of the head of these terrorist organizations that made people believe in then strapping on bombs to themselves, because that is against the religion of Islam at all costs. You will never be forgiven for that. You will never get however many wives they like to attach to that. You will never live in the land of milk and honey. You will forever be in hell. And it says that in the Quran. And if anybody says that blowing yourself up is not suicide, then you are not a Muslim. You are not a Muslim. if that's what you choose to do, Opal Guy, man, no problem, man. Again, I am not here to say I hate America or I wish I could go fight against America. I am doing what an American should do. When their government is doing something, I should be able to say that we not cool with that. I should be able to say, hey, that is wrong, and we don't need to be doing that. Point blank, period. Hey, good night, that Opal Guy. Appreciate the indulgence, man. Appreciate you for giving me your time, man. If you don't mind, hit that subscribe, hit that like. It don't bite. Jennifer, I don't even know why you responded to that. You know that he was trolling. Like, who's gonna say grape isn't resistance? Like, he's trolling. Let James do what he do. You can't give him you feel me, give a motherfucker clarity on no bullshit like that. Motherfucker say dumb shit like that, he can't believe that. So, if I know you don't believe it, you're being sarcastic, you trolling. Do your thing. Keep it pushing. No problem, man. I'm glad that, I was able to be on more one of the calmer nights with the chat instead of, one of the more rambunctious. Definitely appreciate it. And I'm glad it's calm and collected tonight so we could be able to have dialogue and, do our thing. You are trolling. I mean, if you really believe in what you said, then you have a mental degradation going on, James. Nationalism, nothing is wrong with nationalism, bro. And that's another thing. We are worried about what another country is doing. Let them do what they doing. That's the problem here. That America always wants to stick its nose in somewhere and thinking they always gonna smell a ass that don't stink. Leave people asses alone. Shitty nose. One thing about Islam and Islamic countries, people actually have a problem with them because of their belief. If people lived by the Bible and went by the laws of getting lashed, whipped, stoned to death, what people are saying is God laws don't matter. That's a religion that that country chose to believe in. They knew the laws that they wanted to believe in. Now, they might not want to be a holy roller. That's cool. That's cool. But also, those rules do exist. And in that religion, those rules need to be applied if you believe in that religion. Some of these people aren't informed. A lot of these people just hear it and they go with it. That's just what they do. And that's cool with it. They don't even want to search and see, you know, like, oh, 1979, they were thriving because America was their ally. Well, if America was such a good ally, why America wasn't cool with them nationalizing their oil? Because that's what this all goes back to. I mean, Jennifer, I don't believe it's a fairy tale, but that's your choice to believe if it is. But that's also what we have to deal with in the reality of life, that some people do believe in what you call fairy tales, right? And here in America, we don't really have that religious war. And some say it's good and some say it's bad. But if we don't want to live in the religious world, why are we intervening in the religious world? Why is everybody saying that Israel and this Zionist regime are God's people and we need to do what they say do? I think that it's a good and a bad thing to have a religious government. I think that you tend to have zealous in religion, and just as well as you might have zealous in government. But all in all, I think it needs to be a balance. I definitely do. I'm not at that point to live a 100% religious life, because I still mess up. You feel me? It's things that, you know, I'm not married. I have sex outside of life. So for me, you know, it's a little different. And that's the thing about Islam. Islam compulsion is not, there's no compulsion in religion. And the Prophet Muhammad says, don't disrespect someone else's God, for in return they disrespect Allah. You can't get mad if you disrespected somebody else's religion and they start disrespecting yours. You give them that type of respect in that manner. And now if they do disrespect yours, you have that right, or you just separate yourself. But that's the love of what I learned in Islam. That underneath Islam, all people thrived and all people were treated the same. No person under Islamic rule in the good days were treated unfairly. And if they were able to get a just outcome. I do want to bring this to a close, so y'all know what it is. Y'all know who it is, man. It's your boy Pharaoh the God, always on the job. I got 5. Let's talk. And as always, it's real talk, raw talk. And y'all know it's that time again to bring another episode to a close. I appreciate everybody that was here today, that smashed that like button. I appreciate everybody that indulged today in them comments. Thank you very much. And for the ones that I didn't see eye to eye with, man, I appreciate you being here, because I do read the comments and I do reflect on what's being said. And I also do go back and I try to look at it from a different angle. You know, I'm not a stubborn person. I'm not set in my ways. Knowledge, you never stop learning. You feel me? Am I passionate about something? Am I kind of standing on business for something right now that I believe in? Yes. And until I am proven otherwise or I see otherwise, I would speak on that. You know, again, I would like to say though, if I said anything that offended anybody here today or rubbed anybody the wrong way, I'm only human. I make mistakes, and that wasn't my aim. That wasn't what I was projecting to. But if I said anything that made anybody think, you know, made somebody want to recollect, reflect, or something that made somebody just think deeper, man, that comes from the man up above, Allah Ta'ala, to whom all praise is due to forever and ever. I appreciate y'all, man. I'm finna get up out of here. Don't forget to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend to watch the War Report. And it's unbiased, man. I'm unbiased. I really am. I have a right and a left. And if you do something good, I'm gonna say something about it. But if you got something bad going on, I'm gonna have to say something about it. With that being said, y'all know the motto, y'all know the lingo, man. Appreciate y'all. Take care of each other. And if you can't do that, man, take care of yourself, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, inshallah, man, we do the War Report. You know, it's War Reports coming out on a daily due to the updates. Just like right now, if I go on YouTube, I go on Google, I ask chat what's the latest, it's gonna be some new news. So the War Report is popular, and you know, we trying to keep it lit, and we trying to get to a deeper understanding of what we want as Americans and what the future of America really should look like. So, not to hold y'all any longer, I'm out. Have a good night. If y'all are finna wake up and your day is getting started, have a good day. See y'all.